Ugh. Okay, so it's been a while since I last uploaded, simply because I've been in a pretty bad creative slump over these last couple of months and have been lacking the motivation to make any new videos. But I have been missing video making recently, and seeing as I already had the footage ready, here's my thoughts on the follow-up to the first game I ever reviewed, Just Cause 4. I'd obviously recommend watching my review of 3 for additional thoughts, but all you need to know for this video is that I found that game to be okay. There was some fun to be had, but it ultimately ran out of steam very quickly. So if I wasn't that keen of it, why did I decide to check out 4, I hear you ask? Well, as I mentioned, Just Cause 3 was the first game I ever reviewed, and that was over 3 years ago. So not only did I want to celebrate that milestone, I was also happy to give this new entry a chance to see if it improved upon its predecessor in any way. So, does it? There's a lot to talk about, so let's take a look at the game and find out. Alrighty then, the story once again follows Rico Rodriguez as he tries to free another island from the grip of another evil leader with the help of another rebellion. That's pretty much it. Now the plot wasn't a big part of the last game, and despite a few fun elements, it's even more irrelevant here. It's merely the backdrop for the gameplay, so much like the Mario series, it's the presentation that carries a plot like this rather than the events and characters. And as for that, well, it's an interesting situation. The graphics are good, but there's a very noticeable downgrade from 3, which for all its faults, was a damn fine looking game. The aesthetics are nice here too, but it also feels like a game that would look amazing on the PS3, but is noticeably lacking oomph on the PS4. They're not terrible or anything, except for when you fall underwater. How the hell is this the final product? There's a lot of things like that suggest the game needed a longer development time. The cutscenes are not only janky, but then there's also scenes like this.
We're pushing forward, but none of that matters unless we can disable Yappa's defenses.
EC and I have been working on that.
Is it me, or is there something really awkward about the lack of background noise here?
Everything breaks, boom, no more artillery.
Ugh. So the presentation lacks a significant amount of polish, meaning it's up to the gameplay and world to carry the entire experience. So let's see if Avalanche succeeded. This time around, you'll be exploring and exploding the open world of Solis, which I have to admit is a much better map than Medici. There's a lot more variety in the locations and architecture, meaning that I did find myself going off the beaten track every now and then to discover additional areas and secrets. It also helps that traversal is a lot more fun. Rico moves much quicker on foot, and once you get used to the wingsuit controls, I really do enjoy flying around. The grappling hook also seems to have a longer range, and the parachute feels a bit smoother than it did the last time. Traversing across this world is a joy, giving the player a good chance to soak in the environment, as well as being a consistent source of excitement! But while exploring the world with Rico's toolset is very smooth and enjoyable, the vehicles on the other hand are... not. It's hard to keep these damn things on the road with any sense of ease. True, you can just not drive them in favour of the much more fun wingsuit and parachute combo, but there are some missions that require driving, which can sometimes be alright, but it can also be an absolute pain. And speaking of which, the missions are definitely the most prominent part of gameplay, even more so than in 3. There's a few different types this time around. Some are minor, like doing stunt work for this film director and finding these hidden tombstones, they're fine. And of course you have the main story objectives, which you'd assume would make for the bulk of the game, but it isn't. To access them, you need to take over a significant portion of the map with your army, which you do in the map menu. To get enough squads ready for battle, well, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure this is right, but it feels like it is. You no longer liberate towns from the control of the dictator, but there's a mission in each district that requires you to complete a task at the enemy's base, usually resulting in a lot of gunfire and explosions. Shooting enemies is a lot of fun, with a few really imaginative and fun weapons at your disposal. My only gripe is that it's really hard to acquire a new weapon when you run out of ammo in the heat of battle, and it often becomes a mad dash to kill one of the enemies, which is hard to do without any bullets. But besides that, the guns work really well, and there is a novelty to seeing a military base descend into chaos thanks to your handiwork. For a while. 75% of these missions consist of you going to a base, shooting the thing, maybe you'll free some prisoners, rinse and repeat. Sometimes it's not even fully clear how you go about completing the objective. I destroyed all 4 of these things, but I never actually worked out the most practical way to do so, leading to a few irritating minutes of confused shooting. I did have fun with most of these levels, but because it feels like you're already fully in the experience after the first 2 missions, it makes everything feel a bit aimless, and none of the missions particularly stick out from one another. Now there are a couple of breaks from the routine when it comes to these missions, but they have to be some of the worst missions I've ever played in a AAA release. 2 in particular stand out. Your objective here is to prevent the enemy forces from destroying this tower thing whilst it collects data. But there's so many attack helicopters and drones to take care of that it's nigh on impossible to feel in control of the situation, whilst a crapload of damage is made to the signal thanks to additional forces that you didn't notice because you were too busy dealing with the already present threat. And if you're aspiring to become a game designer, play the mission Aeropuerto Scramble for a masterclass in how not to make a video game level. There's so many baffling choices made here that it's honestly astounding. From having to land this plane only for the game to force you to have to awkwardly fly it again to a nearby hangar. What was the point of having to land it on the runway in the first place? Then you have to drop off your ally at one place in a car, return to where you already were to activate some switches whilst 1,000 soldiers attack you, return to where you dropped off your ally, shoot some more enemies, and then drive to the checkpoint with half the freaking army on your tail. Please observe. Did no one playtest this? Just Cause 4 is not a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but then I'd play through a section like that in awe that this was actually a part of the final product. It feels like someone using a level creator who doesn't really know how to use it, so instead spawns a million enemies in the hopes that it will work. It's complete and utter chaos, and not in the way the game intended. And ignoring all the technical downgrades and downright bizarre design choices, the rest of the game is just It has very few tricks up its sleeve, and it exploits them far too quickly, making for an experience where every session blends together into a disposable package. But at the same time, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some fun with it. I really enjoyed traversing across Solis, and I did enjoy a good chunk of the missions when they didn't feel too copy and pasted. So despite all its faults, I'll give it a somewhat positive rating of 65%. It's another generic, forgettable open-world action game that now occasionally turns frustrating, but there is some enjoyment to be had here. So if you're looking for some dumb fun and nothing else, then pick it up for a low price. It should satisfy your needs for a little while before you'll consider moving on to something much more substantial long before you see the end credits. Not the most glowing recommendation I know, but in the wide world of gaming, that's what the Just Cause series is best for.